Hi, I'm Philip. I'm CEO and founder of SecurEdge Networks. Today I want to talk a little bit about SecurEdge Subscriptions, specifically what's included in SecurEdge Subscriptions, and then what does the process look like if you chose to work with us with this new service offering that we have today. So first, subscriptions are infrastructure, software, and services all wrapped up into one number. Now I should explain a little bit about our history. SecurEdge started in 2006 with the goal of being able to provide secure wireless infrastructure on a large scale, because back then that was really the only people that had these types of systems were colleges, universities, hospitals. And so what we did over a period of a number of years is we built processes around how we assess, design, deploy, and support these types of infrastructure. So what we found over the years is that not only do colleges need these types of things, but also small businesses need this. And every industry effectively has a need for secure wireless infrastructure. And so what we hope to get across with subscriptions, or to accomplish with subscriptions, is just to make it easy for customers to do business with us. So let me talk a little bit about the process, and hopefully that'll make some sense. So first, when we're working with a customer for the first time, what we want to be able to do is assess the current environment. Now, we've got 10 years, 11 years of data to do that with, but we still need to understand what specific needs the customer has. So the first thing we're going to look at is what type of industry are they a part of? And what I mean is, if you're in the medical field, that's a much different type of deployment than if you're a college or if you're a large manufacturing facility. So knowing what industry you're part of is super important for us to use the data that we have in order to design properly for you. The other thing that's important is for us to know a lot about your physical environment. So we're going to ask a lot of questions around the facility. We might even get floor plans from you, because the floor plans tell us how to plan that infrastructure. And then probably one of the most important parts of the assessment process is knowing how you want to use the system. So if you're a hospitality environment, you have a hotel and you've got 50 rooms, well, you're streaming Netflix probably, and that's your use case, is to provide guest access. But if you're a large distribution facility, you probably have forklifts and inventory, and those things all really impact how that system needs to be used and performed. And we have to really know that in order to do things properly. So once we gather that information, now we have the ability to design something that's specific to you. So in this design process, what we're going to want to do is figure out what pieces of infrastructure do we need to make this system perform optimally. And so we're going to start with the foundation of security. So even the name SecurEdge, when we came up with that, the idea was that you have to design this architecture with security first. So we want to think about how are we going to onboard devices, how are we going to register users, how are we going to make sure that your system is completely secure before we make this big campus-wide type of infrastructure. And so security is really the foundation of what we do. And then we're going to look at things like, how do we build the networking components? And that networking, what I mean by that is usually, Wi-Fi, obviously, wireless access points, controllers, switches, IP connected power. What are all the physical things that we have to put in that environment in order to make this system perform well? And then what we're going to look at is our proprietary cloud that monitors everything that we install. We're going to provide that to you on a subscription. And then in a lot of cases, we're actually providing or building custom applications based on the customer. So a couple examples of that would be retail analytics, for example, and understanding how many people are coming inside your facility, or maybe you want to do asset tagging or something in a medical facility. We're going to look at those types of things and provide that in this solution stack as a subscription, okay? So now what we've done is we've been able to assess your environment. We've been able to design a system. Now what we have to consider is, how are we going to deploy this infrastructure? Now, when you're deploying, there's really a couple things to consider. First, how do I engineer this in a way where I can scale it? So if I'm a bank with 100 locations, that's different than if I'm a large warehouse and I've got 50 facilities nationwide. So how do I physically install it? How do I engineer it? And then specifically, what does my workflow look like? So if I'm deploying an airport in Las Vegas, that's a much different deployment than if I'm deploying in banking. So what we have to think about is, how are we going to roll this out in a way that creates the least amount of impact to your business? How do we make sure that we install this in a way that doesn't take you down, for example? So once we've done these things, so now we've assessed, designed, and deployed, now is actually the more complicated part. Now, on an ongoing basis, what do we need to do in order to be able to support this infrastructure ongoing? So what mistake a lot of people make is, when we deploy wireless, for example, we put it in a facility and we think, oh, we're done. We put it in, everything looks great. But what happens with wireless is that things evolve over time. So if you think about, for example, a college campus, the number of devices students have on a day-to-day basis grows on a monthly basis. So In another environment, you might have the Internet of Things taking over, where you're putting more and more stuff on your infrastructure. What that means from our perspective and from your perspective as a customer is that we have to consider how we're going to support this infrastructure. So the first thing is we need to monitor all the components that we've installed. So for us, we use our proprietary cloud to monitor everything that we've installed, whether it's power, whether it's controllers, whether it's access points. Then what we do and include in our support process is managing those devices. So on an ongoing basis, updating software without taking the customer down, those are all types of things we have to do. And then perhaps a really important thing that people tend to miss is that we need to be able to measure performance. And when I say measure performance, what I mean is measure it from the customer's perspective. So measure it from the end user's perspective. And what we do at SecurEdge is we put sensors on site, or we build facilities to allow us to measure from the end user's perspective. So putting together all these things, now what you see we've done is now we've gone all the way back to the assessment process again with the services process, and that's really it. So what's included in SecurEdge Subscriptions? The solution stack, and that's the infrastructure, the software that's required to manage it or provide analytics, and then our process that we've spent the last 11 years putting together around how you do this effectively and maintain a high service level for the end user. So, and that's it. So if you're interested in SecurEdge Subscriptions, there's a link on the bottom of the video that should take you to the page to get more information about our service packages to see what's best for you. And then of course you can contact us through our website. Thanks, have a great day.